Teresa Psuty, brewmaster and co-owner of Crooked Lane Brewing Company in Auburn, California. My first taste of craft beer probably came when I was in college, and back then it was Fat Tire was the big craft beer in Denver. That was my first taste, but from there I really loved Sierra Nevada. We started to get Sierra Nevada out in Colorado, but then also when I moved to California, there was Stone coming. Arrogant Bastard I thought was like the funniest thing when somebody brought a bottle of that to a party. But I also love like Tecate and Mexican lagers. But I really started getting into craft beer about 10, 12 years ago. My husband had homebrewed in college badly, I would imagine. I didn't know him at that time, but we started homebrewing right after we had our son. We started with, the carboy in the corner of the kitchen and made some decent but not wonderful beer. We take our hobbies pretty seriously, so it wasn't too long before we had really good fermentation, temperature control, bigger batches. We went to a 10-gallon batch, converted kegs and whatnot, and just really started getting into making some fun beer styles. My favorite style to brew as homebrew was always IPA. I still love IPAs the most. And I just liked the idea of throwing in hops at different times in the boil and in the whirlpool to get different results, and then dry hops and just all the flavors just really was intriguing to me. I love also to brew really delicate beer styles, such as a Kolsch, because I really felt like that was a good indication of my skills. The simpler the beer that you brew, if it's well done, it just goes to show that you took care of all the variables. Your sanitation was good, your recipe development was good, you didn't overdo or underdo the hops or the malts. My husband's favorite styles of beer to brew are local ingredient beers and also classic beer styles. So he worked for a company that was based in Cologne in Germany, so he got to spend some time at the Kolsch breweries. So he really became enamored with Kolsch as a beer style. After we moved up to the foothills, the mandarins are kind of really well known, and we started making mandarin infused beers, and the Mandarin Pale Ale that we homebrewed is actually the one that we still make here at the brewery today. Started from just having beers with friends at our house and kicking around the idea of wanting to start a brewery. It's just amazing how long between you have that idea and to when you can actually make that happen. We started planning in 2013, and it took about a year and a half to find our space. And then in 2015, we leased this building, and it took almost a year of not doing anything just to get through the city planning process. So we didn't actually begin construction until February of 2016. Construction took about 4 months, and then we started brewing in, I guess it was late June or July of 2016, and just brewed our asses off until we had enough beer to open in September. We looked at probably 5 different locations before we came to this one. The challenge for us as far as licensing the brewery was we're not in an industrial zone in this building, and brewing is an industrial use. So it really complicates things as far as the city. But the city of Auburn was great to work with. We did have to go through a planning change on the building. We had to have a planning commission, a meeting, and we had to have an exemption put on this property. One big benefit we got from this is we are a tavern, so we have a very large public-facing space in a pretty small brewery area, because we said to be a tavern you have to have over 50% public access. It's really made this place pretty special in that it's so expansive for customers. We always knew we would do a 15-barrel at a minimum. Part of my education was to listen to hours upon hours of Brewing Network. And we really listened to Jamil Zainachev when he said that every brewery is sad that they didn't get a bigger system, and We really knew that was going to be true for us. We decided on a 15 barrel with enough automation that it was really pretty easy for one person to run it. And then our tank configuration at first was 2 30-barrel tanks and 3 15s, so not a ton of fermentation space. We were able to expand that almost immediately to add 2 more 30-barrel tanks too. The construction was done by a construction management company, and they killed it. They had a guy who just lived here, and we would have up to 30 subcontractors working at the same time on different things. I definitely appreciate the people who do their own construction on a brewery, but that was beyond our skill set, and the amount of renovations and changes we had to do to the building, there's just no way we could have done it. And that 4 months is like money, you know, after you've been waiting for a year to get started and you finally have the go-ahead, like you got to jam. So it was expensive, obviously, but we really got a lot done in a short period of time, and then shorten that time between, you know, being able to open and being able to start. Whenever you have to go through a city or county process, you have to realize there are personalities involved, there is scheduling involved. We had gotten to the point where we were ready to submit our proposal, and it was October, maybe. Turns out everybody was on like scattered vacation schedule until January. We could not get a meeting for almost 4 months, and we were ready. Our plan was ready to go, and we couldn't get the planning meeting scheduled. And to walk into the planning meeting knowing that, you know, 5 people are standing up there and they're going to decide your future, that you've invested a year and a lot of money into, it's incredible. It's very unnerving. Luckily, we went in there and had a great results, but we also had to build a staircase to nowhere. Our place was originally a movie theater, and there's some parking that is in a little strip behind the building. Well, it's kind of a drive aisle that's got a sharp turn, and the planning commission decided that that was not the safest, and they wanted us to build a staircase to make sure pedestrians could get down to this lower parking lot. So we built this staircase at a cost you can imagine. And we laugh every time because this staircase is really a staircase to nowhere. Nobody uses it. Once in a while, we have people parked back there, but it's mostly just, you know, staircase to, when we're walking down to other storage building, I always try to use it so somebody at least walks on the stairs. But that's what happens, you know, you run into some things you don't expect, and there's some hoops to jump through, and they may not be the ones you want, but that's where we were. Learning the brew house was actually not too bad. Once we transitioned from being home brewers to be brewery in planning, I spent a lot of time trying to learn. And the way I did that is I reached out to breweries that I knew and liked and asked if I could just come and hang out there for a day when they were brewing and just absorb as much as I possibly could, see what went right, see what went wrong, just try to gain an understanding about how do you make the jump, you know, how do you make a jump from homebrew to commercial brewery, so I could get ahead of mistakes that other people had made. And, you know, for instance, making overly bitter beer by just not realizing how long the hops are in contact in a commercial brewery. You know, it's something you need to account for. Also, your efficiency is much better, so what does that mean for your recipes? That kind of thing. I got a lot of education about in that year leading up to it. And then our system is actually built by American Beer Equipment in Lincoln, Nebraska. They had a partnership with a local brewery as kind of like a training center for them. And this brewery happened to be getting a system that's very similar to mine. So I called them up and said, hey, can I just come brew with you for a week? And they were like, well, I don't know why you'd want to, but okay. And it was the best because they were learning, they were making mistakes and having to deal with the troubleshooting. Like, everything about it was totally perfect for me. I came away with such a great amount of information about what I needed to know on this brewery specifically. The beers we open with, SR16 is one of them. That's a beer we've done from day one. Kolsch, we open with that beer. Mandarin Pale Ale. So those are the 3 beers that we've always done. We had a beer called Dry Diggins, which we go back to every once in a while. To me, it's like a dialed down version of Celebration from Sierra Nevada. And I think we had a Northern English Brown Ale and a couple of small batch beers. We used to have a 1 barrel I would just play on to do some funny stuff. So I think there might have been a stout or a porter in there. Those beers I don't remember because I think they ran out on the first day. We had like 1 or 2 kegs. And the first day here was ridiculous. Didn't make too much of an announcement, but the word got out and we were so packed and just totally overwhelmed by the public. We were running out of glassware, we're running around. I'll never forget that day, but I can't even remember what happened. It was just it was a bonanza. But after that, everybody came the first time and they probably were like, well, those guys, they were running out of glassware and running out of beer. So we were pretty slow the first few months. And then we've just been slowly building ever since, I think. We are not the hypiest brewery, but we're a really solid foundation. The process of getting the doors open, doing those beers, it was incredibly stressful and incredibly exciting. We just could not wait to see people and see how they liked the beer. But I think that if I could have done it a second time, I would take another month and have a lot more beer brewed and ready to go. It's just hard because, and I understand why it happens, you've been working on this for so long and you can't wait to let people in. But the problem is, and I've seen it happen with a lot of breweries, that they run out of beer and then they have to close again. Luckily, we didn't have to close, but it was just crazy. But at the same time, you can only prepare so much, I think. If you haven't been in this industry, as we haven't, this is the second career for us, we had a lot to learn. So we have a 15-barrel brew house with a 30-barrel hot liquor tank. We have a boil kettle and a separate whirlpool, so we can double batch a little more quickly than we would be able to otherwise. 2-phase heat exchanger, so it uses water and glycol. We have 4 30-barrel tanks, 3 15s, and a 15-barrel bright tank, and 2 45-barrel fermenters are the newest ones to the party. I think what makes Crooked Lane stand out is having a really diverse offering of beer. And when I say that, I mean we put a lot of focus on classic styles, and we try to brew some things that you won't see very often at other breweries. We really enjoy German and English classic styles. We're doing a Schwartz beer in a few weeks. We've done, sours and stouts. We do hazy IPAs, of course, and our hazy IPA, the 1-2 punch, is the most popular beer that we do. But we kind of have always held on to our soul as far as what we really love about beer, and to try to educate people by crafting beer styles that are really good representation of that particular style. So, we'll have a Helles out in a couple of weeks, and it is made from all German ingredients and it's trying its very best to emulate a real German Helles. So and I think that's important. I love beer for that reason, because there's just been thousands of years put into these beer styles. You know, it's great to innovate, but it's also great to look back and see what's, you know, what is this all built upon. We have probably about 5 or 6 beers that are almost constant all the time beers for us. We have really found being in cans and being at retail locations, you know, having a lot of tap handles, it helps that there's these beers that everybody can hang their hat on and they know exactly what they're going to get. It's fun to rotate beers, but we're not the brewery that is inventing something new every turn of a tank. Sometimes I envy those folks because sometimes it's a little harder to keep making the same beer over a long period of time. But I really appreciate that we have core beers in a time where I don't know if that's cool anymore. We have 24 taps, so I would say, you know, after those 5 or 6 beers, we're gonna have really diverse offerings. We try to keep our IPAs to be no more than 6 or 7, and then have dark beers for the other 7, and then lighter beers for the other 6. Right now we're starting to brew lighter beers because it's about to get warm and everybody's, you know, looking forward to having those light beers out in the beer garden. I really believe that if you're going to make a classic style and call something, it needs to be right, and so we take that pretty seriously. It becomes a challenge when we have too many things going. Just from a yeast handling standpoint, you know, we used to do up to 4 strains. We try to keep it no more than 2 or 3 right now and just kind of rotate them through. Our core values at Crooked Lane are really based in community, crafting quality beer that tells a story. And our story is, you know, the history of beer, but also good innovation. When you come to Crooked Lane, I think you'll immediately recognize it's just a community spot. You know, we have a nice big tap room. It's kind of quiet, a little upscale maybe, and a patio in the front. It's kind of perfect for couples and families that want to get together. And then out in the beer garden, it's really informal. It's like kids and dogs and, you know, fire pits and what have you. So the vibe is good, and I think it really accommodates different types of patrons. Crooked Lane, from a heart and soul standpoint and from a community focus standpoint, I think there was always kind of a mismatch in our look and feel compared to who we are. So when we started, we had this logo that was an English street sign, and it's still out in front of the brewery, which is awesome, but it kind of makes you think we're going to do, you know, very traditional stuff. And what happened as time went on is, you know, we're kind of a bunch of goofballs. You know, we have our geeky ways about beer, but we have like our beer tenders are really friendly and fun, and like it's a very sociable place. And so we wanted to try to communicate that through our branding a little better, a little more forward thinking, a little more innovative. So we've kind of mixed that up over the past few months and tried to take that out into our Instagram and Facebook, redid our websites, to just try to connect these ideas that we really feel to how we're perceived. I have goals from a production standpoint. I want to keep continuing to grow, and probably our next moves as far as that goes is just to extend our distribution footprint a little bit. Not huge, but you know, we'll take it step by step. The thing we've always loved to do is make award-winning beer. So we've won awards for some of our lagers. Our Kolsch won at GABF in 2018. We would love to win a big award for an IPA. So I am still like working towards that goal. It didn't happen last year, but there wasn't tons of competitions last year. And just keep brewing beers that are really central to our ethos as far as classic styles, and brewing really fantastic beers that people maybe haven't heard of. Our first medal of note was actually in 2017, we won a gold at Great American Beer Festival for Doppelbock. And I'll never forget that day. Our taproom manager, Brian, joined me out at the festival, and I think he almost had to carry me up to get the medal because I could not believe it. It was just amazing. The next year we won for Kolsch. We got a bronze for Kolsch. And then in 2019, we ended up winning Brewery of the Year at the first CCBC, the California Craft Beer Cup, which was paired with a summit. That was definitely one of those things that's really off the chart. We're looking forward to having that competition again this year. I'm on the Sac Area Brewers Guild board, and we're putting on the competition. But it's going to be happening this fall, so breweries out there can start gearing up for that one. Honestly, winning GABF that year was like going to the Olympics without having trained, because there was no earthly reason I should have won that year, and I honestly just could not believe it. And it's just so special when you get that medal and you look at it, and the first beer style is Doppelbock. And I was like, yeah, just totally a dream come true. When the word came down that everything was shut down, I have to admit, we all just had to take a pause. It was a pretty crazy couple of weeks. We furloughed all our staff and just kind of sat around and looked at each other and said, okay, what are we gonna do? Well, the good news is we had been running our canning line for almost a year at that point, and we had almost all of our tanks completely full of core beers. So we said, okay, well, let's get a label printed for every drop of beer, and we just canned all the beer. And we sold all the beer either through the front door or out at retailers. We quickly put together a pretty simple distribution agreement with a distributor to take cans, and they started taking a bunch of our cans. So we overnight flipped the switch from being 75% retail, 25% distribution to 100% distribution. It worked a lot better than I would have thought. We did get PPP money, and with that money we brought people back, but we still weren't able to be open, so we had everybody doing like odd jobs and cleaning and working in the back and doing whatever we can think of. And then when we were able to open the doors again, we had all our beer in cans. Now we have to have draft. So as the year has gone by, we've done this like 3 times. I think we had everything completely shut down, everything's in cans, and then we open up and we're slammed and everything has to be draft. So I have to say, I think we weathered it a lot better than a lot of people would have been able to. And we just got really efficient at doing what we're doing. We have less people on staff now, not because we let anyone go, but mostly because people went off to new places and we didn't replace them. So about the same amount of beer as last year, but with less staff, and just really tighten things up. And I think it's going to serve us well in the future when we can grow and be a lot more efficient. Obviously nobody wants this to happen and we all want it to be over, but I'm proud of the way that we dealt with the situation. I love this industry so much. I think anyone who knows me knows that this is my heart and soul, this is my passion. I love staff. They really do feel like a family. Many of our staff members have been with us for years and years, some people from the beginning. We have such a shared vision, I think, within Crooked Lane that we're all working towards the same thing. So when we're all having to work hard and grind it out a little bit, everybody's on board. Being a woman in the industry, and I have to say, I appreciate that none of the questions that you had were like, what's it like to be a woman in beer? Because that's what everybody wants to know. And it's not really about that, but I think being a woman in beer who hires women to work in the back, and we all can be welcome here. And I think that women as consumers, are really starting to understand that. And I just want this to be a big tent where everybody's welcome, and you don't have to worry about your gender or what's a girly beer or what's going to be the right thing for you. It's like, no, you figure it out and you do you. I think if I have like a life purpose, it's to do that, just to say we can do whatever we want to do, and we can be as good or better leaders in this industry. So I want to provide that for other people, to give everybody a sense that it really is equal, and everybody can bring their talents to this. I think the last 10 to 20 people have asked me, should I open a brewery, or I'd like to open a brewery, what do you think? I am always like, don't open a brewery. But I think that if someone said that to me when I wanted to open a brewery, I still wouldn't listen. So the things that I would say is just have, like everyone tells you, over budget, and just know that you're going to run past your expenses, that the timeline's going to be longer than what you think, and just to think about it very holistically. If you're starting a business, you're going to have partners. You have to think, what is it like to be married to those partners, because you really are, and you better be really good at working together. You got to think about, what am I going to want in 5 years? I'm really happy where I am, but I don't know that everybody would want to be doing the amount of day-to-day work and the amount of focus that it takes to really keep up with everything. You need to think about it from a bigger picture of what you want to get out of the business, not just the beer, because the beer, having good beer is like the baseline. You need to have a good business. That's what's really important. And, especially during COVID, I think that a lot of the places that weren't the focus of the Brewers Association reports, like the fastest growing breweries were the neighborhood breweries that didn't have a lot of distribution, but those folks really suffered. So how are you going to put together a business that can withstand all these market fluctuations and customer interest fluctuations, and not sell your soul in doing it? It's really, really hard, and it's harder than I realized. But I still love it. I still feel excited every time I come in here. So appreciation needs to go to New Helvetia. They were the first brewery that I went to go see what they did. And Dave's awesome, super supportive guy. Drake's, I've done, we've done like 5 or 6 collabs with them. They are amazing people. They are so funny and fun to hang out with. And John Galuli, he's just like a sweet human being. And when I first sent him a question over a text and he actually replied, I was just like, everything's gonna be okay now. So I think it's more the people, than the businesses. Obviously, it's just, the craft brewing community is totally amazing. People are so helpful, and they've been really helpful to me. I try to pay that back. And I think the thing that makes me realize just how tight-knit we are is when we all, get to go to a show and spend some time, like, we're hanging out together. We're such good buddies, and I'm looking forward to this, season of isolation to go away so we can start doing more collabs and start doing more brew fests and see a little more of each other. Earlier this year, or end of last year, we really leaned into our e-commerce. So we now ship beer throughout California overnight, and we've really set it up so you can take advantage of variety. We usually have some kind of variety pack, or you can just build your own and try to make it pretty affordable. Also, if you're ever driving up to Tahoe, we really encourage you to come by. We're just half a mile off of Highway 80 So any Bay Area folks or Sacramento folks that are coming up to the mountain, this is a great stopping off point. This summer, we're actually forming a partnership with Raft California, where when you sign up for a raft trip, you get a discount on beer, or if you buy beer, you can get a discount on a raft trip. And they use us as their taking off and starting from spot. So we have a lot of raft folks come through here.
Favorite hop?
Strata.
Desert island beer that isn't yours?
10 Degree by Urban Roots.
We're on the same wavelength here. Favorite season? Spring, summer, winter?
Spring, except for allergies.
Pizza or burger?
Burger.
Burrito or taco?
Taco.
Football or basketball during sports?
Have to go football.
Beach day or ski day?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Ski day.
Dog or cat?
Both.
Morning person or night person?
Morning, strangely.
Pale ale or Hellas?
Oh, Hellas.
Nelson or Galaxy?
Galaxy.
Fast food, guilty pleasure?
Well, Taco Tree.
Taco Tree?
Taco Tree.
Where's that at?
Taco Tree is an Auburn thing.
Oh, okay.
Gotta go to Taco Tree.